there is something very off with our calendar. Like the math is not mathing. A year could easily fit 13 months instead of 12. Suddenly, all the numbers got messed up. Julius Caesar's month, July, had 31 days. And of course, Augustus' ego couldn't take that. After all this drama, you would think we would have fixed the calendar, right? No, we are still following the same Roman mess. I think at some point, we all have thought that there is something very off with our calendar, especially when we are about to get our paychecks, right? Like the math is not mathing. And if you did, you are absolutely right. A year could easily fit 13 months instead of 12. So here is the math. There are 12 months in a year. If each month had exactly 4 weeks, which is 28 days, so 13 months into 28 days is equal to 364 days. Now you will notice that adds up only to 364 days, but a solar year is exactly about 365 and a quarter days. And that leaves us with 1 and a quarter day each year. So what to do with that leftover day? Well, I don't have a perfect answer for that. But maybe we can invent a 0 day. Like imagine December 31st ends and instead of jumping to January 1st, we get an extra day just to, I don't know, maybe we can call it a lazy day. And in every 4 years, we add the 1 day as usual, the same old leap year. Then technically, a 13-month calendar with 28-day months would be very neat and regular. Every month would start on the same day of the week. Clean, predictable, OCD heaven. But then, why do we use 12 months instead? Let's start by blaming the Romans, because this modern calendar we follow today was inspired by the Romans. By the way, the Romans themselves were inspired by the Egyptians, whose solar calendar had been created almost 1900 years earlier. The Egyptian calendar was pretty neat. They had 12 months, each with 30 days, and then they added 5 extra days for festival, like at the end of the year, to make it 365. Clean, simple, completely based on the sun. But the Egyptians weren't the first either. They were inspired by the Babylonians, who had a lunar calendar developed around 1900 to 1600 BCE. This one wasn't first either, by the way. And if we continue to go back, we would go to Stone Age. Let's not go that far today. So anyway, coming back to the point, the problem with lunar calendar was that months were 29 or 30 days each, and that made the whole year add up to 354 days. That meant the Babylonians were constantly out of sync with the seasons. So sometimes they just threw 1 extra month to balance it out. So the smart Egyptians ditched that lunar calendar and went with the sun and gave us a proper solar calendar. But the Romans took that idea and somehow came up with a 10-month calendar. Yep, the Roman calendar originally had 10 months in the 8th century BCE. That calendar was completely based on farming seasons, not astronomy at all. They only cared about the planting and harvesting season because that was their main way of surviving. So they didn't even bother naming the winter season. In winter, nothing grew, so how it's their headache? So they completely ignored it and called it the dead season. So their year officially started in Martius, which is March. It's named after the Roman god of war, which makes sense as this is when the farming war season starts after the winter. April came from the Latin word aperire, meaning to open, referring to flowers opening. May was named after Maya, the goddess of growth and fertility. And June was after Juno, queen of the god and goddess of marriage. This one worked out really well because, June is still a popular month to get married. And after naming June, the Romans kind of got lazy, I guess, because they just numbered the rest. Quintilis, for the 5th month, sextilis for 6th, and then September, October, November, December, literally 7, 8, 9, and 10. It was all simple and fun until they added January and February at the start. Suddenly, all the numbers got messed up. Now, September became 9, October 10, November 11, and December 12. And if this wasn't messy enough, along came Julius Caesar and Augustus Caesar, who decided they wanted months named after themselves. So, quintilis became July and sextilis became August. So now, at that time, the calendar was actually alternating. Like one month, 31 days, the next was 30. But here's the twist. Julius Caesar's month, July, had 31 days. So automatically, Augustus Caesar's month, August, had only 30. And of course, Augustus' ego couldn't take that. So what did they do? They borrowed a day from February and made August 31 days as well. And to balance the pattern again, they shuffled days around in the later months. You might ask, why did they steal the extra day from February? Why not some other month, right? Well, the Romans already thought of February as unlucky. It was tied to purification rituals and honoring the dead people. So basically, it was already the throwaway month. That's why it became the runt of the calendar, stuck with 28 days and only getting a PD day in every 4 years. So after all this drama, you would think we would have fixed the calendar, right? No, we are still following the same Roman mess. But why? Because once Julius Caesar introduced his Julian calendar, it spread across the Roman Empire, and when the empire expanded, so did the calendar. Later, in the 1500s, Pope Gregory tweaked the calendar a little bit because even Caesar's calendar drifted by about 11 minutes per year. So over centuries, holidays like Easter were sliding out of the season. So around 1582, Pope Gregory adjusted the leap years and basically reset the dates to line things back up with the seasons. But the structure, the 12 months, the weird February, the random 30s and 31st, that all come straight from the Romans. We are stuck because the whole world was already using it. And changing the calendar is way harder than just living with the mess. Now, you might be thinking, if a 13-month calendar makes so much sense, did anyone ever suggest it? The answer is yes, several times in fact. Reformers in the 19th and 20th centuries pushed the idea of a 13-month international fixed calendar. Every month would be 28 days, super neat and predictable. Just to be fair, not everyone follows the Gregorian calendar 100%. There are Hebrew, Hindu, Islamic, Chinese, Bengali, and many other calendars still in use for religious and cultural events. Ethiopia even runs on its own 13-month calendar. So technically, if we want the neat 13-month calendar life, we should all just move to Addis Ababa. Or at least we can ask them what it feels like to be on a 13-month calendar. If you like today's talk, please hit a like and subscribe this channel, and I will see you next month with a new talk. Till then, stay cozy, stay curious.